I have a very interesting man in my studio now. It's Mikkel Aaland. Welcome, Mikkel.
Hey.
Yeah, you are here because of Nordic Light, and you become quite a veteran over the years, being here for the sixth or is it seventh time?
I think it's the seventh time now, yeah.
So, what do you do here?
What do I do here? I love it here, first of all.
Yeah.
This is such a treat to come to this town. You see, I go to festivals and conferences all over the world, and this is the one where you can come and actually think and talk, and it's a quiet place, and that's not a bad thing.
No.
It's not a bad thing to have a place like this where you can come and be with people that you really respect, because it brings amazing people come every year to Nordic Light Festival in Kristiansand. The legends of photography come here. But to have a time where you can sit down and talk to them and listen to them, this is a very unusual situation. Most conferences are busy, very commercial, flashy, bright lights, lots of bad music. Here it's quiet. You can think.
Yeah, and you have become sort of an ambassador for the festival. How do you have, I suppose, many acquaintances that you maybe contact, or maybe many contacts?
Yeah, I have a good Rolodex.
Yeah.
Remember what a Rolodex is?
Yeah, I know.
I have a Rolodex of good friends over the years, and every time I bring them here, they want to come back. It's just such a special place. But I think of myself a little bit like a bridge between Norway and at least California and America. My family's from Norway, and I have a real special connection to this country. And I have a special connection to America, of course. And I like to think of myself as the kind of the person in between the two countries.
You're the Atlantic Ocean. So.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
More of a
that's
bridge.
deep.
That's deep, yeah, yeah. And how come you live? You told me your parents were Norwegian, and you were from San Francisco, or California.
I live in North Beach in San Francisco, right next to Fisherman's Wharf and Chinatown, and I look around me, and I love North Beach. It's where Cafe Trieste is, where all the beatniks were, and Lawrence Ferlinghetti sits next to me for coffee in the morning. So it's an amazing place. And the problem, though, is that everywhere I look, it's concrete and buildings. And what I have here in Norway is the family home that my great-grandfather built in 1893 on the Telemark Canal in Ulefoss.
Yeah.
And my father, when he passed away, he left the property to me, and as the oldest son. And so I come back. I've been going there as a boy, so I've been going there all my life. But now I go back to that house, and I looked across in my backyard, and all I see are trees, and I see a river, and it's calm and quiet, and it's a really wonderful contrast to my life in San Francisco. So between the two locations, I find a balance in my life, and I really like that. It's important.
So you have to have that balance. You can't cope. You can't have just one. You can't live just among beton or nature. You have to have both civilization and nature.
I can't imagine not having both. I like density. I do like density of people and the exchange that happens when people are squished together. And no, it's exciting. It creates an energy, a power, but it can wear you down. It can be overwhelming if it's all the time. It's like loud music all the time. So it's nice to go from rock and roll to Mozart, if you will.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. You lost so many musicians this year. What's going on? The last one was Prince, and he was an icon.
Yeah, Prince, and I mean, it's just what a year. It comes in waves like this. I remember, over the time I've been alive. There's always, it seems like it comes in 3s or 4s or 5s.
Yeah.
And then there's thankfully a period where they don't die.
Yes.
But it's called life, I'm afraid.
It's called life. And I haven't got over Mozart's death.
Yeah, I like that.
in,
That's good. Mozart, yeah, for me it's Sibelius.
so I'm a little bit behind. Well, what kind of photos are your speciality? What do you like most about taking pictures?
Yeah, well, photography is like, in a way, it's a passport. It's a way of, when you're a photographer, you have an access to the world that is, it's almost carte blanche. You know, you can go anywhere and go everywhere, and with a camera, you're there to observe. You can make friends very easily when you're working as a photographer, because you're like you're a communicator. So people know. Well, I don't know if everybody knows this, but I mean, there's a sense that you have a responsibility doing what you're doing, and I love that feeling of meeting people and trying to tell stories, their stories, and then bring my story into their story. I've always loved photography. I like writing too. I'm a writer as well, and that's harder for me. Photography comes more naturally. But I think that what happens when you put the two together, words and images, you get this kind of integration, this wholeness, the wholeness that I'm always seem to be looking for in my life. I find it when I put the pictures and the words together, and when they're together in the right balance, it's so powerful. It's wonderful.
Richard Wagner was the greatest of the searchers of putting things together, like his Gesamtkunstwerk, you know, putting scenery, paintings, music, acting, singing, everything together and blending it.
Yeah.
Is that too little done? Is in art today? Maybe people are sitting on their in their own rooms or their own places and don't look around enough and put things together. I don't know.
That's a beautiful question. I really, it really speaks loudly to me, because I've been trying to figure out, you know, we give talks at Nordic Light. Everybody that has an exhibition gives a lecture. And I'm thinking, you know, how am I going to talk about who I am? Yeah, and in fact, I was going to start with a slide that says, who am I? And I think that what I'm discovering now, looking back after many, many years, and 16, 17 books or something I've done, different projects, I'm finding a common thread. And the thread is that I'm integrating myself into my work. So I'm not sitting in that room by myself like you described. I don't do that. I'm not that type of an artist. I'm an artist who I'm almost like a performance artist, in that my work the work is my life. So there's an integration that happens, and I'm drawn to that. I don't want to be separate and apart and somehow alienated and fragmented from my work. I'm in the middle of it. I am very much part of my work. And I think that what that speaks to for me is a feeling that the world is a little bit fragmented and a little bit out of balance. And what one of my, I guess for myself, but I also see it for my children and for, you know, my friends, is to maybe make a statement that life doesn't have to be that way. There can be an integration, there can be a wholeness to it, if you just wake up and think of it that way. I'm so lucky. I am so lucky. When I was 9 years old, I came to Norway, and my grandfather, he has a furniture factory. He was a möbler company, möblerman, snekker, yeah. And so, but the factory, it's not a factory, it's like a verkstad. He had 10 people working for him. And it's a verkstad right on the edge of the river. And then next to it is a lager where he sold the furniture. So he made the furniture in the lager with his workers. He sold it in the verkstad, and then made it in the verkstad, sold it in the lager. And then over here was the house where he was born. My father was born. My aunt was born. His sisters were born. And in the middle is a courtyard. And then outside is a garden where my grandmother grew food. My grandfather would go in the river with nets, and that's the food. The garden, my grandmother got the vegetables to eat. It was an integrated life, and I saw that as a boy. Maybe it was a curse too, because I saw something that was not typical now in the modern life at all, especially when I was growing up. And I said, I want that.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here with the same feeling, because I too had a grandfather with a farm, and of course I had two grandfathers, but my father's father, he had a farm, and I grew up there basically, and of course I were here in the town when I went to school, so I come from two worlds, the farming community and the city community, and I'm so glad today to have both. I think if I've just grown up in the city, I've been a completely another man, I think.
So you know what I'm talking about when when you're exposed to it, when you see it, and it becomes part of you, then it's like a hunger. If you don't have it, you get hungry for it, and I think that's where I am now. I can't imagine my life without it. So be careful, for if you see it and you experience it, you might get hooked.
I'll talk a little about you again. You were a pioneer in digital photo and an alpha tester at Adobe. How big a revolution was it when the digital camera came?
That's another great question. I got involved in digital photography with Ansel Adams. Do you remember him? He was an American landscape photographer, best known for very formal landscape with film, very traditional photographer. And the early 80s, we're talking 1981, I think it was, or 82, 81. I guess it was 81. I went and saw him, and he was the master then, 80 years old, and I was the young boy coming to the master. And I just wanted to hear about his life and his work, and we spent time talking, and at the end I asked him, what would you be doing if you were me and starting over again? And he said, well, first of all, I'd be into video. He said that right away. And this is early days of video. Kind of surprised me, because I didn't think of him as the kind of anybody in the electronic world. But then he said, but the thing that's really interesting is what we call electronic photography. And that he started talking about the space program, how they were getting photographs from Mars electronically. He said, that's really where I would be looking right now, because if something is really exciting going to happen there. This is way before digital cameras became common. But it stuck in my mind. And when things started to happen later in the 80s, I said, that's what I want to do. So I really jumped on the bandwagon. Well, it wasn't even a bandwagon. it was like a little tricycle. Yeah. There was nobody else there. I wrote the first digital photography book. It was published by Random House in 1992, first consumer digital photography book. And then I've worked with Adobe, makes a great series of programs, tools for photographers, including Photoshop and Lightroom. I helped develop Lightroom and helped develop Photoshop elements. And so I've been really involved with this, what you called a revolution. So that really brings to the question, is it a revolution? And I think at the time I would have called it a revolution, because it felt like we were really changing things to go from traditional chemical-based film to electronic digital. But what happened is that I eventually began to understand that it's really not that different. We're capturing light on a sensor. The revolution wasn't so much in the digital photography area, but there is a revolution happening now. And that, I do think this is where the revolution is where the camera now is integrated into the phone, and the ability to tell stories and the ability to manipulate images and the ability to communicate with images on that social media level And also what's coming around the pipe with what they call computational photography. That's going to be revolution. That is revolutionary. That's really changing everything. That's
so what's
true
that?
revolution.
So what's that computational photography?
Well, computational photography is when the camera starts to become really smart and doesn't just capture light, but it captures all kinds of other information, location, it could longitude, latitude, distance. You can even infrared, different wavelength. And when you start building more and more information into the capture, you can start doing a lot more with it. You can start to share pictures in a completely different way. The picture becomes really smart as opposed to just a visual image.
But doesn't it take away some of the control from the picture taker? Like pilots don't fly DC-3s, DC-10s more. They're relying on software. So what about you?
User control.
User control.
Yeah. Well, I think that's always a challenge with technology. To have most technology is about freeing up your, making the auto mode, as we call it, and to take things. I think there's always going to be an auto mode, but there's always going to be people who can go in and manually be clever and add their own little spice, if you will, their own salt and pepper, and make things more unique in their own way. That's just the way it always seems to go. There's going to be a few people that will say, I don't like the processed look, I'll make my own look. Yeah. That's just technology.
But one of the revolutions is that much more people are taking pictures now than they did before the digital camera came.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
There were 6 billion photographs uploaded on Facebook last month. Yeah. Wait, 6 billion. So we're talking trillions in a year. Yeah. There's going to be more pictures out there than there are grains of sand pretty soon. That's really interesting. I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the festival because I think in a way it's like fast food. We're really not absorbing images. We're not really taking time anymore. And I don't think we're getting nourished in the same way when pictures are like fast food, like McDonald's hamburgers. Yeah. And you eat them and consume them and move on so quickly. You don't even remember what you saw.
But it's a bit like that in music too. You got the fast food music, the 3-minute song, the hit.
Yeah. I think
is it art or what is it?
It's modern life.
Yeah.
And I think the music analogy is beautiful. But that's why we're here in Kristiansund. We're here for the gourmet meal. Yeah. We're here for the slow food. We're here to take some time and enjoy that meal and to remember and remind other people that there's more to it. There's a lot more to talk about. There's things to digest and enjoy and savor. That's what we're doing. That's what this festival is about. That's why this festival is so special. It's a really important festival.
I'll let that be the last word. And just a quick reminder about your on Saturday. 10,
I have a lecture on Saturday. Yeah. Sure, please come.
Okay.
You're welcome.